Hello everyone and welcome back to this little series. So in this one I'm going to be showing you how missile pods work, or pods. As you can see, I have these two windows open. I have missile design and create research projects. So this is basically going to be how you design pods effectively and what you need to do to be able to use them. So first, we're going to design a pod. So there are three different types of pods. There is the bombardment pod, autocannon pod, and air-to-air pod. Now, the air-to-air pod isn't really used at the moment because the AI can't really, implement fighters onto the battlefield in ground combat yet, and that hasn't been coded in fully. Steve does plan to eventually do that. Autocannon pods. If we just add it to here, they have low armor penetration, but do 60 damage for this size one here. 3 shots per thing, while bombardment pods do a lot of armor penetration, but are gonna have a lot less damage here. So you need size 2 for me to be able to get a damage 1 pod for bombardment. And this comes back to size. So once you've selected one of these, you'll be able to make a pod. So let's say I want to make an autocannon pod. I can then go up here and I can change the size of it. So these pods will do a certain amount of damage towards enemy ground units. That is the role of fire pods. They are much smaller than missiles, and they also require much smaller launchers, which are called fire pod bays. So let's say I want to make a size 8 one. So this will do 60 damage, and it will be able to penetrate 10 armor. Penetrate through 10 pieces of armor. So this is going to do a lot of damage on the field versus engagements. Now, ground fighters, that's a separate tutorial fight in the bombardment phase, I do believe. So all of this weighs into doing that extra bit of damage. Now we're going to go over to fire pod bays. Once you've designed your fire pod, you can then design the bay. So I'm going to need a size 8 bay. You can select whatever you need. And it's extremely small, these bays. These are only 20 tons for size 8 here. And you can build a size 8 pod and then you put it in. You do not need to reload the pod unless you are switching it out mid-carrier. So you can switch fighter pods out for other kinds of pods. Now, I will get into that later into carrier operations, but the general idea is that you can switch them out. So this doesn't mean that you need to reload after engagement. Fighter pods stay continuously, and that means that they have an advantage over missiles in about 3 ways. 1, they don't consume any kind of ordnance. 2, you don't need to spend time reloading them, and you don't need to spend time building or any of that stuff. And 3, they're very small, so you can make atmospheric fighters very, very small in comparison to their spaceborne brethren. And as a show of how that can be, I'm going to show you my atmospheric fighter. So we have a F-11 broadsword class atmospheric military fighter. And as you can see, I have these hard points or fighter pod bays, and then I have bombardment pod and autocannon pod. And these are both at, I believe, size 8. If I look in here, yep, these are size 8. And they do a certain amount of damage, and they have a certain amount of penetration. So this is the general idea with these pods. These allow me to consistently fight at very small tonnage. If we look 250 tons with doing as much damage to ground units and not needing to reload, and all of those great benefits compared to Strike Interceptor, which is 500 tons and needs all of this to be able to fight. Now, there is a thing you can do if you do need to quickly switch out your strike fighters, your space fighters, to be able to use pods and fight on the ground more effectively. So if you have a box launcher, you can load a pod in. It's very inefficient and you don't want to be doing it, but you can do so. Only box launchers work, and only box launchers or missile pod or pod bays work, and those are the things you want to be using. Thank you for watching, and this was the general guide towards fighter pods and how they work. as well as the general design for them.